Hello, good evening, everyone. I am delighted to be part of this celebration of Impact Northwest and to celebrate your critical work. And I'm very glad to be here today to talk about the work that collectively we've done together over these pandemic years, the work ahead, and the importance of the work that you do day in and day out. So these last few years have truly been a watershed moment in our country. They've shown us in profound and unforgettable ways the importance of home and what we can achieve when we work together. The pandemic years revealed the collective harm that comes from allowing homelessness and housing poverty to persist, and to make clear that housing is healthcare. It always has been, and that stable, affordable, accessible homes are a prerequisite to personal and public health. The years revealed the pervasive housing crisis for the lowest income people who struggled so mightily to pay rent pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, and who will continue to struggle after the pandemic until permanent solutions are funded. The years showed us how quickly and effectively the country can, when it has the will, implement emergency protections and resources to keep renters and people experiencing homelessness safe, healthy, and housed. And the years showed us as housing advocates, organizers, providers, impacted people, how deep and broad is our movement for housing justice, and how powerful and effective we are when we work together. Because as difficult as the years were, we rose to the challenge and we achieved unprecedented resources and protections for renters and unhoused people. Together, we achieved over $46 billion in rental assistance, an unprecedented level of support for low-income renters. Together, we fought for and kept in place a national moratorium on evictions. This, too, was historic, unprecedented. In the history of our country, there has never been anything like such a broad protection to keep renters housed. These effective and important protections and resources, and the work that we did together to get them to the people most in need, this is what stopped the eviction tsunami from coming to our shores. Today, over 10 million ERA payments have been made, keeping millions of people stably housed. And our collective efforts to ensure equitable distribution of these funds worked. And beyond the emergency rental assistance, resources that we advocated for during the pandemic, like emergency housing vouchers, new money to build permanent supportive housing, state and local funds, allowed communities like yours all together throughout the country to permanently rehouse 140,000 people experiencing homelessness and to prevent homelessness for nearly 50,000 more families. So additionally, we had over 200 new state and local tenant protections put in place by partners of ours across the country, from just cause eviction protections to right to counsel to the sealing of eviction records to preventing rent gouging. These 200 new tenant protections are shifting power in our housing system back to where it belongs, with renters and people experiencing homelessness. So we've had a tremendous amount of success over these last few years, and yet still our work is more challenging than ever. The needs are greater than ever. The truth is that despite our success, renters are struggling more than ever, and more are falling into homelessness. Despite the clear success of pandemic programs, cutting eviction filings in half, or cutting child poverty in half, despite this, we don't yet have in this country the political will to continue these astonishingly successful programs. So instead, Congress let the expanded child tax credit expire, having the near immediate and obvious effect of poverty rates among children rising. And Congress let emergency rental assistance and eviction protections end, letting renters with the lowest incomes fall back into a brutal housing market and economy. In 2021 and 2022, just as pandemic help ended, steep rent hikes and increased costs across the board squeezed people with the lowest incomes. So we have work to do, and we have tremendous challenges ahead. Extremely low-income renters are facing a staggering shortage of affordable and available homes, and the shortage worsened with more people becoming extremely low income and losing the affordability of hundreds of thousands more apartments. The gap of homes that was affordable and available to those lowest income renters in 2019 was just under 7 million. The latest available data that NLIHC released last month shows a gap of 7.3 million units. And part of what expanded this gap was the skyrocketing prices of the pandemic housing market. And those egregious rent hikes made an already bad situation for low-income renters much, much worse. Median monthly rents rose at a shocking pace in the last couple of years, increasing by nearly $200 a month, year over year, squeezing renters everywhere, but putting extreme pressure on the lowest income households. So is it any wonder why homelessness and homeless encampments are increasing in our communities? Not to all of you. It's very obvious why, right? But as homelessness increases and becomes increasingly visible, there has been a dangerous and growing backlash against proven solutions to ending homelessness and against people experiencing homelessness. This backlash, together with the difficulty of providing quick solutions, is causing leaders of both parties and at all levels to make harmful decisions to address homelessness, often choosing to simply move people out of public view rather than addressing the underlying causes of homelessness. Thankfully, we already know how to address homelessness, and that's through housing first. Reams of research and evidence prove housing first to be the most effective way to address homelessness. And while data and research are critically important, the greatest testament to the success of housing first is its transformative impact on the lives of individuals and families that participate in these programs, including more than 22,000 people that Impact Northwest serves each year. Your work shows that a comprehensive suite of housing stability and supportive services not only makes it possible for people to find and keep their housing, but it also enables them to thrive in every aspect of life. Impact Northwest knows and has shown that every family is different, and there's no single one size fits all path to housing stability. And that's why it's so valuable that Impact Northwest looks at each family's holistic needs and gives them the agency to choose from a wide range of supportive services that help them reach their goals. Sometimes that means assistance with basic necessities like rental and energy assistance, food, clothing, transportation. Some participants make use of your recovery services navigation. Other families benefit from academic resources for kids, parenting support, or job readiness training. This is housing first in action. This is what works. This is what it will take to solve the housing and homelessness crisis in the Portland area. And this is the model that we need to scale up in every community across the United States. The transformative outcomes that Impact Northwest achieves and the stories that we'll hear tonight about the people that Impact Northwest serves, on top of all of the available data, make it abundantly clear that housing first has the power to end and prevent homelessness. But, of course, taking housing first to scale requires the federal government to fund solutions. But now House Republicans are threatening to default on our nation's debt as leverage to demand dramatic cuts to domestic investments, including affordable housing and homelessness resources. And we've seen this before. This tactic of using negotiations around the debt ceiling to bring about steep reductions in federal spending was adopted by House Republicans in 2011. It resulted in a law called the Budget Control Act that led to 10 years of very low spending caps, and it made it impossible to fund solutions to America's housing and homelessness crisis at the scale needed. Even with recent increased spending on housing programs, we still haven't recovered from the cuts under the Budget Control Act. So our neighbors and our communities can't afford another decade of spending cuts to these critical housing investments. So we have to push back hard against them. And we have to keep fighting, not just to defend the little affordable housing that Congress provides through appropriations, but to expand these proven solutions so that everyone has a decent, affordable, accessible future. And so as much defensive work that we're required to do, we must keep pushing forward a proactive agenda to achieve housing justice. And so we will. So we have our work cut out for us, and we have so much more to do as we move onward to housing justice. But I have no doubt that we will succeed. You know, I have long said that the only thing we've ever lacked to end homelessness in our country is the political will to do so. And the pandemic proved it. When our movement for housing justice saw the danger that the pandemic posed, we aligned with a singular focus to protect people who are homeless and struggling renters, to save lives, and to get and keep millions of people stably housed. And we did. And when government at all levels recognized the emergency and the need, it acted and funded solutions on a scale unlike any in our lifetimes and in our country's history. Together, in these last few years, we achieved what we once would have considered impossible, unthinkable. And so now, on those days when our goals feel impossible, when the everyday difficulties of the work that you do day in and day out and the challenges feel insurmountable, on those days when you feel like we can't or we won't, remember that we did. We achieved the unimaginable. We did the impossible. And together we can and we will do it again. So thank you all once again. Thank you for your incredible commitment, for your difficult, essential work day in and day out. Thank you for being partners with us in the work at the federal level. And thank you for your leadership and perseverance. Congratulations and thank you for all that you do. Enjoy the rest of the program.